What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so you may have seen my video I just did. I talked about Stephen A. Smith appearing on Gil's Arena in an interview. And in that interview, he talked about how he does not like LeBron James, and LeBron James doesn't like him. And as far as he's concerned, concerning all the things that LeBron James has done behind the scenes, if he never speaks to LeBron James again, that's fine with him, and vice versa, right? But yeah, he tries to, at the same time, I guess, to emphasize how objective he is. Despite his personal disdain for LeBron James, he still ranks LeBron as the second greatest player in the history of basketball. You know, he makes it seem like it's more just the off the court stuff that he has a problem with LeBron James with, right? But one of the things that seems to vex Stephen A. Smith are people who continue, and usually it's Kobe fans, who continue to push Kobe over LeBron. Now, I can't even say it's just Kobe fans because I've come to the conclusion that Kobe's better than LeBron James historically. And I'm a Jordan fan, not necessarily a Kobe fan, right? But for some reason, this seems to vex Stephen A. Smith. So he brought up a very interesting argument as to why LeBron is better than Kobe. Now check this shit out. Let's just pay attention to what Stephen A. Smith says here.
I think it's important to understand that when we look at Jordan, for example, we look at 6 finals, 6 MVPs, unblemished in that championship round, never allowing a Game 7 to take place. We've seen in one pressurized moment after another where he answered the call. Mm-hmm. We look at Kobe. He's a 5-time champion. And you have a lot of people out there that put him ahead of LeBron because of that. I think Kobe was a killer, God rest his soul. The brother he'd be somebody that he'd give it to you. Mm-hmm. And not to say that he didn't play defense, because obviously, you know, in his prime, he was an elite defender. The flip side to it, however, is that when you're playing with Shaq and the rest of the crew, and then ultimately Gasol and Bynum and the rest of the crew, you had a crew. When you struggled, you really, really struggled. Mm-hmm. That was never LeBron. See, when you look at LeBron took that team to the finals, and then you get swept by San Antonio. But you saw what he did. Right. Everywhere he's been, teams have elevated. Mm-hmm. So you can't take that away from him because he's 6'9", he's 260, because he could play inside and out, because he can be, lethal in the open court, because he could step things up defensively, because of so many things that he brought to his arsenal, and how he would create mismatches, which I think is one of the things that he's done better than most. You look at him along with the 4 championships and what have you, and you say you can't take that away from him, because as bad as the Lakers were as they descended, right, in Kobe's final few years there, would that have ever happened with LeBron? The answer is no. With LeBron James, no team would have been as bad as the Lakers were at one point. So you take that into consideration as well. You think about all of those things. And then you look at a Bill Russell, for example. Yeah, different time, 11 championships, 13 years, you get all of that. But in the same breath, he was a defender and a rebounder, but far from an offensive juggernaut. You look at a guy like Wilt Chamberlain, arguably the most unstoppable big man in the history of basketball. But I'm looking at your number one nemesis, which was Bill Russell, and he outnumbered you 11-2 in titles. Plus, you had quit in an NBA Finals game in the eyes of a lot of spectators. So you got that going on. I'm looking at Jerry West, God rest his soul, the silhouette, where you won 1 title in 9 tries. You see what I'm saying? I'm looking at that. I'm looking at Tim Duncan, the 5 titles. Yeah, but it was Popovich. Yeah, you Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker and the crew. But you know what? You got the Lakers a couple of times. They got you a few times. Not quite the same. The Diesel, Shaq, dominant. but a big man that played bully ball but struggled at the free throw line with 52% shooting from the free throw line, et cetera, et cetera. You got those things. There's so many different things that go at. Tracy McGrady was big time. T-Mac was no joke. But you got the title when it didn't matter. When you were in your prime, certainly Grant Hill getting hurt didn't help in Orlando. It's not your fault. We know that you had those requisite skills. But what will forever be held against them was not only the absence of titles, but you were up 3-1 on Detroit. And basically said the series was over. And Chauncey and them brothers came back on you. I'm just saying.
I don't know where to begin with this one. I really don't. This is such a. There's so many things that are being omitted in Stephen A. Smith's argument here. But let me start right here before I forget to go into it. So basically, what you take away from what he's saying is LeBron would have never let the Lakers be as bad as they were towards the end of Kobe Bryant's career. That's pretty much what he's saying, right? But LeBron's never had what was essentially a career-ending injury like Kobe had. Kobe Bryant was not the same player the last 2 or 3 years of his career. He was not the same player. If you give, and I hope that doesn't happen, but if you give LeBron James a career-ending or at least a prime or dominance-ending injury, the likes of which Kobe suffered from, and by the way, Kobe's game was more predicated on, quickness and explosiveness and footwork, and that Achilles rupture took a lot of that away. So his effectiveness as a versatile scorer was neutralized. Okay? So he was not the same player offensively at all. And defensively. He wasn't the same guy. So he couldn't dominate games in the same manner. Also, there was not a consistent media effort or campaign to pressure a superstar to come join Kobe in LA like we have seen since LeBron has come to LA. Every fucking year, there's a media campaign for this star or this guy or that guy to come play in LeBron James. How many can we play LeBron James in LA? How many times have we seen these media campaigns? Whether it's all fucking year for an Anthony Davis, which succeeded, or we see a campaign for an Andre Drummond, which failed, or Russell Westbrook, which failed, right? Constant media campaign. The NBA just rigged shit so that an all-time great and Luka fucking Doncic come join LeBron James. So of course he's not going to fucking lose when he's playing with all these superstars. And let's go back to when LeBron was playing in his heyday versus Kobe. Kobe was playing in the Western Conference, which anybody would tell you was far more competitive than the Eastern Conference. Far more competitive. You put LeBron James in the West in the 2000s, he's never going to the fucking playoffs. Never. He's never going to the playoffs. The Eastern Conference was so goddamn weak that the Cavaliers literally did not even have to fucking practice. That's why they kept underperforming in the East in the 2000 teens. Notice LeBron had more talent around him in the second stint with Cleveland, but their records weren't as impressive. Why? Because they were less disciplined, playing sheerly off of talent, and they rarely practiced. And this is something that was said by the former coach of the Cavaliers, how he never practiced, and former players that played with LeBron James, including Derrick Rose and Isaiah Thomas. They said part of the reasons why their games didn't really get much better is because they didn't practice as they had when they was with other teams. That's how weak the Eastern Conference was. This is a lazy motherfucker. Well, comparatively at least, he's not lazy when it comes to his body because he's a narcissist. But when it comes to actually putting in work, he's a shortcut artist. Kobe didn't play shortcuts or take shortcuts, I should say. Are we forgetting, too, that LeBron James missed the playoffs his first 2 years in the NBA? What's the excuse then? Oh, he's young. He's young. That's the excuse. He's young. Yeah. And yeah, Kobe did play with Shaq. Yeah, he did. And so did LeBron James. You know who Kobe didn't play with? Anthony Davis, Carmelo Anthony, Andre Drummond, Russell Westbrook, Luka Doncic, about to be DeAndre Ayton, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love. I mean, what are we doing here, man? What are we doing here? Kobe beat more 50-win teams than any other player in the history of the NBA. And once again, I got to point this out too. Stephen A. Smith, you don't get any brownie points at all for taking up for LeBron as far as, look, I'm being objective. That nigga don't give a shit. He don't care about you being objective. They don't care. His fans don't care. They don't give you any brownie points for, well, I still think he's second best. They don't even want to accept that you think he's second. It's go or bust with them clowns. And Gilbert, this is another situation where you're on your, a supposed Kobe fan who is either espousing himself or has someone else on his platform crapping on Kobe at the expense of LeBron James. But you call yourself a Kobe fan. It just, I don't get it. I really, really don't. Oh, by the way, this is what I was thinking about earlier, but I didn't want to get sidetracked. So his argument is that Kobe couldn't carry teams the way LeBron could in his prime because of, I guess, LeBron's superior physicality and all around game and whatnot, right? Now, somebody answer this for me. Does anybody think, go back to the 2005 2006 season, right? Go back to 2005 2006 and look at that Lakers roster. The one where the best teammate was Lamar Odom. And I think Smush Parker. Go back to that roster. Does anybody legitimately think that LeBron James would take that team to 50 wins in the Western Conference? LeBron's not getting out of the fucking. He's not even making the playoffs with that record. He's not making the playoffs with that record. They went 45. If I remember correctly, their team went 45 and 37 with Kobe averaging 35 points a night, 35.4. Kobe was responsible probably for about half of their wins that year. Without him, that team Would have been one of the worst Lakers teams in the history of the NBA. Kobe was not only box office in between the Shaq and Gasol eras, he was carrying them to at least being respectable. But he was tired of just being respectable. He didn't want to just put up stats at that point in his career. He wanted to win. And I'm tired of this media revisionist campaign all of a sudden trying to make Pau Gasol into one of the top 2 or 3 power forwards of his era, which he was not. Pau Gasol hadn't done shit before he played with Kobe. Pau Gasol was the Scott Pippen of power forwards. Talented, but ain't done shit before he played with Kobe Bean Bryant. Kobe Bean Bryant did for Pau Gasol what Michael Jordan did for Scottie Pippen. That's plain and simple. And another thing I want to say too, Kobe Bryant didn't have to have the league create all these extra shit to give him a chance to go to playoffs. He didn't have to create a play-in tournament to help give him extra chances to make the fucking playoffs. And Stephen A. Smith contradicted himself when it comes to championships because apparently to him, Kobe having 5 rings and LeBron 4, you need more nuance than that. You got to talk about how Kobe didn't have, LeBron has played on teams that are not as talented as Kobe's. You see how he did that, right? So he was saying, in essence, his argument is Kobe's played on 5 championship teams, LeBron 4, but LeBron's done more heavy lifting. That's his argument. But then he goes on to say, well, Wilt only got 2 rings. Bill Russell, 11. That disparity is too much for me. Okay, I get what you're saying there, but is there anybody else that played in the Bill Russell era with 2 rings? Nobody else even has 2 rings. Wilt's the only one to get more than 1. He's the only one to get more than 1. He's the only one to get more than 1 in that era. And you don't take into account Bill Russell playing on super duper, hooper duper, dream team type teams. You don't take that into account at all. You don't take into account that, unfortunately, Wilt Chamberlain dealt with not only some mediocre teams, but he also dealt with situations where his teams suffered untimely or badly timed injuries. And though Wilt Chamberlain did not quit in Game 7 of the 1969 NBA Finals, that's a fucking lie. He did not quit. His coach, Butch Van Bedekoff, would not let him back into the fucking game because Butch Van Bedekoff, for whatever fucking reason, felt like they could win without Wilt. He wouldn't let Wilt back in. And for some reason, Butch Van Bedekoff doesn't get the smoke he deserves for not putting the best player in the game back in the fucking game. But yeah, this is this bullshit, man. You know, just another situation they try to shit on Kobe Bryant, man. It just don't make any sense. But tell me what you guys think.